You almost have to laugh, or else you'd cry at the sheer absurdity of it all. People are quitting on Donald Trump left and right, and instead of reflecting on why, he is completely losing his mind. But this time, it's not just an angry post on social media. We are talking about literal legal threats against a jazz musician for quitting a gig. It sounds like a joke, but when you combine that with the very real dark cover up happening regarding the Jeffrey Epstein files, you start to see a picture of an administration that is terrified, lashing out, and crumbling from the inside. We have a lot to get through today because the chaos is coming from every single angle. But before we get to the heavy stuff, we have to talk about the atmosphere right now. This is turning into the most unpopular presidency of the modern era. And I know people say that a lot, but look at the numbers. He is underwater, even more so than in his first term. And it's not just the critics saying this. The MAGA movement itself is starting to fracture. You can see the cracks forming in real time. It's worth taking a second to look back at how he actually operated throughout 2025. It was a year defined by a censorship plot. He spent the entire year viewing any opponent, any critic, or just anyone who disagreed with him as a criminal. He thinks dissent should be illegal. We saw the lawsuits, we saw the intimidation tactics, and let's be honest, it worked on some people. We saw folks capitulate. We saw multi-million-dollar settlements paid out by people who probably would have won in court. Their own lawyers told them, hey, if we fight this, we win. But they paid up anyway just to make the headache go away. That is how the intimidation machine works. You saw it with Coors getting his show canceled. The parent company claimed it was a financial decision, but come on, when you look at the big picture, you see exactly how capitulation happens in this environment. But as we close out the year, Trump is facing a much larger revolt, and it's happening on the very issues that were supposed to be his strong suit. Take the deportation agenda. We have now seen this in action for a year, and it is incredibly unpopular. It's not just Democrats saying this, it is drawing opposition from across the entire political spectrum. NPR has been reporting on families being ripped apart. The Texas Tribune has been breaking down the negative impact this is having on criminal probes. Then you have the Economic Policy Institute pointing out the obvious. These deportation plans are hurting the US economy. They are killing jobs. And don't even get me started on the tariffs. We were told these would be a massive success. Well, we've had months to see how they work. And sure, Trump has zigzagged a bit, pulling back here and there. But look at the charts, look at the data. The rates went up and they didn't come down much. The costs are being passed on to us. Deep down, Trump knows there is an economic problem. He talks about it, but in public, he is in total denial. He has concocted this fake narrative that affordability is just a buzzword. He actually claims that when Democrats talk about things being affordable, it's a trick. Listen to the way he frames this. He says he inherited a mess. He calls affordability a con job. Think about that for a second. He thinks people wanting to be able to afford groceries and rent is a con job. He thinks that when politicians talk about lowering costs, they are tricking you. That is how the President of the United States decided to end his year, telling struggling Americans that their desire for affordability is a lie. It hasn't been well received. December has been a brutal month for him, and the economy isn't the only thing dragging him down. The Epstein debacle has stretched right through the holidays. The resistance to this administration is growing, and it's been peaceful, but it is strong. Unlike some of the corporate elites who folded under pressure, regular people aren't giving up. We saw millions involved in the No Kings events. People are showing up, and the administration thought that dumping the Epstein files would make the problem go away. It's done the opposite because they bungled it so badly. The redactions are a joke. They are drawing ridicule from everyone who looks at them. The small number of documents they actually released is basically the Department of Justice admitting on paper that they are breaking the law. Axios is reporting that these files are going to keep dripping out well through the end of next week. That means the Trump administration is going to lose the PR war every single day that this drags on. And now we are hearing reports that there are hundreds of thousands more files that they still need to review. It doesn't look like a competent cover-up. It looks like a messy one. But let's be clear mathematically, it is still a cover-up. His administration is falling apart at the seams. On one hand, you have rising costs due to idiotic tariffs. You have a disgusting mass deportation plan. And on the other hand, you have the cover-up of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the biggest predator we've ever seen. People are furious, and usually the MAGA base would hold steady. Usually it didn't matter what he did, but lately that is not the case. The base is tired, and this brings us to the funniest and frankly most pathetic story of the holiday season. It involves the Kennedy Center, or as it has been unofficially rebranded, the Donald Trump and John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts. Just the name change alone is enough to make you roll your eyes. But it gets better. A musician named Chuck Red, a drummer and vibraphonist, was scheduled to play. Chuck Red is a pro. He has been heading the annual Christmas Eve event there since 2006. His biography at the Kennedy Center lists him playing alongside legends like Charlie Bird and Dizzy Gillespie. He's the real deal, but Chuck saw the rebranding. He saw the name change happen last Friday, and he decided, you know what, I'm not doing this. He canceled his performance in protest. He told CNN simply that he was saddened to see the name change and that he's been performing there since the start of his career. A principled stand, right? He just didn't want to play the gig under that banner while the administration went nuclear. Rick Grinnell, the Trump-appointed president of the Kennedy Center, sent a furious letter to Chuck Red. He accused this jazz drummer of manufacturing a costly political stunt by backing out at the 11th hour, and then came the threat. The letter, which the AP got a hold of, says, "This is your official notice that we will seek $1 million in damages from you for this political stunt." $1 million for quitting a jazz gig. The letter claimed that withdrawing was classic intolerance and that the renaming honors President Trump's extraordinary efforts to save this national treasure. It is beyond parody. Donald Trump constantly talks about Trump derangement syndrome. He accuses everyone else of being obsessed with him. But look at this situation. The real derangement is coming from inside the House. It is Trump's derangement. He thinks we are desperate to hear from him. He thinks the world will end if he isn't the center of attention. He thinks that if a drummer quits a show, it's a national crisis worth $1 million lawsuit. Honestly, the world is just begging him to shut up. He actually tweeted the other day asking, maybe I should become a host full time. And I think I speak for the entire planet when I say, yes, please do that. We will give you an Emmy. We will pretend your ratings are huge. Just go away and let us have a normal country again. But he can't. He wants to impose his lifestyle, his thoughts, and his impulses on all of us 24/7. And everyone is just tired. That is why you see members of Congress announcing their retirement. Sure, they know a blue wave is coming in the midterms, but it's more than that. They are exhausted. They are tired of having to be around this circus. Trump's power to compel people to stay is gone because he is losing his grip. It's humiliating. And it is getting worse because the MAGA loyalists know that this Epstein scandal is toxic. It is the most toxic scandal in presidential history, and the cover-up is making their job impossible. This is why Representative Jasmine Crockett is pressing so hard on this. She isn't letting it go. She spoke recently about the state of our justice system, and she didn't mince words. She said plainly that we are living in an age of corruption. We have a lawful subpoena from the Oversight Committee that has been out there for a long time. More importantly, the House and Senate passed the Epstein Transparency Act. It was signed into law. This isn't a suggestion. It is the law. And yet we have a defiant attorney general. Pam Bondi has decided that her loyalty belongs to Donald Trump, not the Constitution. It is very difficult to imagine getting justice with this DOJ. But there is a plan. Jasmine Crockett discussed what her colleagues, Ro Khanna and Tom Massey, are planning. They went on CBS and laid it out. They are talking about bringing inherent contempt charges against Pam Bondi. This is a rare move. It's a bipartisan coalition building this. The idea is to fine Pam Bondi personally for every single day that she refuses to release these documents. And Jasmine Crockett is all in. She said, "Oh, absolutely. There's not a question about that." She highlighted the struggle just to get to this point. Remember the discharge petition? Remember how hard they had to fight just to get the signatures? And notice the timing. They finally got the movement going on a Friday, which just so happened to coincide with the day the DOJ was supposed to produce the files. It's obvious that the Speaker of the House, the DOJ, and the White House are all involved in this cover-up. Mike Johnson is willing to shut down the House if it means protecting this corrupt president. And amidst all the political maneuvering, we have to remember the victims. Congresswoman Crockett was asked if she had been in touch with any Epstein survivors since the documents started dripping out. Her answer was heartbreaking. She hasn't. Once the committee was released from their duty on Thursday, that communication line was cut. And we heard from survivors like Liz Stein. She has been very vocal. The White House and the DOJ keep claiming they are in touch with survivors. They keep saying they are handling this with care. But Liz Stein says that is a lie. To her knowledge, she hasn't been contacted. She hasn't been given a phone call. She talks to other survivors every single day, and none of them have had a real conversation with the people supposed to be investigating this. Why? Jasmine Crockett nailed it. She said, these are people that are more interested in covering for pedophiles than they are in seeking justice for these survivors. That is how we got here. Trump made a campaign promise to release the files, but we know he is terrible at following through on promises. And here is a detail that really exposes the rot. We know there was a massive rift between Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she is one of his most loyal soldiers. What was the fight about? It was about this. Marjorie Taylor Greene was actually trying to make sure the president was in touch with the survivors. She wanted him to sit down with them. She tried to be a go-between. She tried to do the right thing in this specific instance. And what did Donald Trump do? He called her a traitor. He turned against her. That tells you everything. The administration knows the president is involved. We don't know the full extent, but we know they are willing to burn bridges to cover for him. And frankly, the people still standing by him at this point, it probably doesn't matter what the files say. They will stand by him anyway. But they are missing the point. They could move on from this if they just chose transparency. Instead, they are putting the survivors in a worse position. They are allowing donors, friends, and powerful men who might be involved in sex trafficking to remain in the shadows. They are getting a free pass. This is what we need to talk about every single day. And it's not just the cover-up happening right now. We need to talk about the cover-up from the first administration. Where is the missing minute from the camera in Epstein's cell? Where are the documents that vanished from his stay in prison? We want to know all of it. We have to push back on the lie that this cover-up just started recently. It has been happening for decades. So whether it is suing a drummer for $1 million or hiding the truth about a sex trafficking ring, the pattern is the same. It is about control, it is about ego, and it is about fear. They are terrified of the truth coming out, but we are going to keep calling it out.